You can get an extra year of a Windows 10 support for $30.
Yeah, I got to check my computers to see which version of Windows I'm running. I don't even know what the differences are between Windows 10 and 11.
Because of my use case, I won't pay for it. I will just only connect to the internet to get the newer version of Serato. Because I also remember Microsoft at one point said, oh, this will be the last version of Windows. Do you remember when they said that about Windows 10? Meta's ban on political ads will continue past Election Day.
Political ads shouldn't exist at all to begin with, but I don't know. I feel like Meta's going to screw it up somehow.
I think Facebook could make a huge comeback by just not even doing that anymore. Just showing you the groups and pages you follow, posts by your friends, and ads. How the tech are you? I'm producer Dave. As my name implies, I'm the producer, co-producer of this show, and the producer of all the other shows here at Eplex Media. You can decide whether or not that's a good thing by checking out some of our other content, which you can find at our website, echoplexmedia.com. My first story is you can get an extra year of a Windows 10 support for $30. I think this story is also dumb, but here we'll go over it. Support for Windows 10 officially ends in October 2025. Microsoft is pushing for people to upgrade to Windows 11, but over 60% of Windows users are on Windows 10 at this time. Microsoft usually only offers extended support to business, government, and education. This will be the first time it's offered to consumers. Windows 11 has some hardware requirements that many still very usable computers won't be able to meet. And most people don't believe Windows 11 is an improvement over Windows 10. And my conclusion about all this is that obviously 2025 will be the year of the Linux desktop.
It always is.
It's just around the corner.
Yeah, I got to check my computers to see which version of Windows I'm running. I don't even know what the differences are between Windows 10 and 11, except that I heard that 11 is just not very much more useful stuff included.
Yeah, I saw that Windows 10 was coming toward its end of life, and my computer was kind of nagging me to upgrade to Windows 11. And I have some, the only Windows computer I have sits on a stand with my DJ equipment, and I have some real-time audio processing requirements, let's say. And Windows 10, you can go in and just turn off a bunch of crap and tell it to prioritize whatever's on the screen right now, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty easy to do. I was unable to accomplish those things in Windows 11. And for whatever reason, I couldn't get it to stop scanning the system for malware every 5 minutes. It was slamming the processor. It's what is the Wi-Fi was off. It wasn't even connected to the network. I did not have a good experience with Windows 11. And I don't.
Wow.
And my laptop is not a slouch. It's a 6-core. I think it's 6 cores, 12 threads, 32 gigs of RAM, and a really fast SSD. But for whatever reason, I can't set up Windows 11 to rock 2 WAV files at the same time without having audio dropouts. I know because I work off of a Windows 10 YouTube video that tells you everything you need to do to get the maximum performance in any kind of. It was for lower latency in gaming, but it turns out that those things actually are the same things that you need to do to reduce the latency in anything. Couldn't find a similar video for Windows 11. Because of my use case, I won't pay for it. I will just only connect to the internet to get the newer version of Serato, or maybe just get the newer version of Serato on my Linux computer and then put it on there via what we used to call the sneaker net.
Do you happen to know if do you have to pay anything to do an upgrade to Windows 11?
No, it's free.
It is free. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just people don't want it because it's
people who have needs like mine, they don't seem to be addressed. Or if they are, it seems like it's not as easily discoverable. I've long thought that because a lot of people do have low latency requirements for any number of things, it isn't necessarily just entertainment and games. There's things where low latency is required for, operation of machinery, in business applications and whatnot. And I've long thought that Microsoft could do themselves a big favor by just letting you go into some setting and be like, hey, could you configure my system for low latency, whatever, they call it. They could call it gamer mode, or I don't know what they would call it. They could brand it in some way. Heck, they could even put it in pro and make you pay extra for it or whatever. Yeah. But I've long thought that they should do that because there's I'm running a Linux distribution right now that is exactly that. Yeah. It's optimized for that. And I think that a lot of professional people are going to get annoyed. I think a lot of DJs are going to get annoyed. people who produce music are also have had similar experiences with Windows. They end up having to turn up the latency. So that's not a problem like if you're sitting there like programming drums and writing like electronic music or whatever, but you start running some latency, and now you're trying to play a guitar over some drums or whatever that you've already recorded. And now the latency, now you're having some problems, right? You're having some real problems. So, maybe some updates to Windows 11 will fix this. And for people who need to be connected to the internet, $30 doesn't seem like that. They could charge you $150, and people who really need it are gonna pay it. But my guess is they probably did some kind of like focus group stuff or like surveys or whatever, and they figured out that people will pay 30, but they won't pay 50, right?
Right.
I mean, I was on Windows 7 well past its end of life. That machine just never connected to the internet. So, I mean, that's what I'll do. But this just sucks for like a lot of people because what is that? That TPM version 2 is required for Windows 11. That's a trusted platform module, I think it's called. That's required for Windows 11. And there's plenty of computers that are perfectly usable that I think like 8th or 9th gen Intel doesn't have it. So we're only going back a few years on these computers. And you can still buy a brand new computer with those kinds of processors, right? They're like low end, cheap computers or whatever.
I wonder if my computer has this. My desktop's pretty old at this point, and I really don't want to upgrade it. Anytime soon.
I think if
it works just fine.
If it's a desktop, I think you just get an add-on card.
That's true.
Right. It's going to render a lot of like people are going to be in a position where, okay, they'll spend the $30, but then what happens the next year? If like the laptop I carry around, like I don't know. My last one died because it got a drink spilled on it. I'd probably still be using the last one. Right. I don't run Windows, but like the things that used to bog your computer down would be like your hard drive gets old and maybe you're not techie enough to understand that your hard drive's getting old and you can just replace the hard drive, reinstall your OS, and you're rocking and rolling. So people would replace their computers. But SSDs, they don't really slow down as they get older, or if they do, they're slowing down by a couple, milliseconds or something. You're not noticing that. And so like there's plenty of people out there who have 5-6-year-old computers that work great. I mean, I have a ThinkPad that's like 10 years old that I just have sitting over by where I DJ so that I can monitor my Twitch chat. And the main reason I like it is because it's got a 15-inch screen and I think it's like not even 1080p. So everything's nice and big, can see everything, and the keyboard on it is amazing. But it certainly won't run Windows 11 you know what I mean? I just wonder, like, I don't think people are going to switch to Linux. I think we're going to have a situation like we did with Windows 7 where a lot of people didn't like Windows 8 and they assumed Windows 10 was going to be like Windows 8, even though Windows 10 was pretty good, or is pretty good, I guess. And so you're going to end up with a lot of people just not doing this and just having computers that are vulnerable. Now, mind you, if you keep your web browser up to date, mostly hang out in the web browser, you're probably fine. And like there aren't a lot of people out there who have, large governments or non-government agencies or any kind. Basically, not a lot of people are the targets of espionage. And so for most people, as long as you keep Chrome or whatever up to date, you're probably fine, but it still sucks. Because I also remember Microsoft at one point said, this will be the last version of Windows. Do you remember when they said that about Windows 10?
Well, no, I don't specifically remember it, but I'm not surprised.
It's a very Microsoft thing to do. And but that would have been even worse, right? Because they would have just said, here's your updates. And then they would have given you, I guess, what's functionally Windows 11. And that would have sucked too. This just sucks all the way around. I would recommend people, if you use your computer for anything important, that when this time comes, just pony up the $30. They may find that they make them enough money off this $30 that they're like, you can do another year, actually. Who knows? Yeah. But the enterprise machines, the price is higher. I think education machines, I think in some cases it's free. So it just kind of depends on what your license is with Microsoft. But this is dumb. It was dumb. Windows 10 is like, especially after like how bad the reception was for Windows 8. When people liked Windows 10, you'd have thought that Microsoft would have learned from the past and just stuck Windows 10. Because the other thing is Windows 11, I in the article that I linked, sort of mentions that people are kind of befuddled as to what it is that Windows 11 does that Windows 10 does not do. Yeah. There may be some stuff, but I had many problems with Windows 11, not just the real-time audio thing. I had problems connecting to the NAS that I have. I had no idea how to map a network drive wasn't immediately discoverable. And like I barely use Windows anyway, so keep it simple for me, friends. Keep it simple for me, friends. I can map a network drive from the command line in Linux, but in Windows, man, you better have a tool where I press the button and it goes, "Is this your server?" And I go, "Yes," and it says, "Oh, you need a login and password." I know that.
Yeah.
And that's how you connect. But I don't know. I had that problem. Updates took forever on Windows 11. Your computer would restart, and like 45 minutes later, it'd be like, "I'm still processing an update." I'm like, "What could you possibly be doing in there? What absolutely could you possibly be doing in there?" But the backlash may be such that this doesn't even happen, and then they offer, like, I don't know if you remember with Windows 7, they stopped doing like the service packs or whatever, but they were still doing like critical security updates for quite a long time after what they were calling end of life for Windows 7 systems. So, and that's been sort of a pattern. They did the same thing with XP, right? When Vista came out, tried to push everybody to Vista, and that was awful. That was awful. So I don't think Windows 11 is as big a pile of crap as Vista. Give it time. Give it time. All right, I got my next one. My next one is about the election and Meta. On the day of this recording, the election is tomorrow. Assuming that Wednesday happens, you'll get this a day or two after the election. And Meta's ban on political ads will continue past election day. So the existing ban was simply a week before the election. You couldn't do sponsored posts about the election. This was to, stop sponsored posts about the election, because that's what it does. Meta will extend this ban for at least a few days after the election. Probably depends on what happens. This ban is across all of Meta's websites and apps. There's no clear statements from Meta about what kind of policy tightening they might be doing regarding non-sponsored content, pushing any kind of message about the election coming up to, and in the days following the election. And Google has taken somewhat similar actions and will also be extending their ban on political ads for at least a few days after the election. What do you think?
Yeah. Somehow I feel like this is a good idea that they're doing political ads. I feel like political ads shouldn't exist at all to begin with, but I don't know. I feel like Meta's going to screw it up somehow.
Yeah, I mean, political, we're always going to have political ads if you have like mass media, free speech, and supposedly open elections. I don't know, I was unable to the Axios articles are usually pretty good, but I think that they were stuck in the same place that I was when I tried to look up, like, what are the criteria? How long are you going to do this? What might make you extend this past a couple days? Those kinds of things. And they did say that they would be banning entirely any ad that, like, if the election is certified, any ad that questions essentially the outcome of
that's election. Good and important.
The big thing is that there was nothing in it about like other kinds of content, because there are very big accounts on Facebook. There are very large Facebook groups, and you don't need to buy an ad if you are embedded in a Facebook group with millions of users. You figure maybe a third of those are active every day, and Facebook, maybe those people check that group every day. And so, that I'm not sure what they're supposed to do. I've thought for a long time that they need to shut down groups, but that's just my opinion.
Or moderate it but even then I don't think they'll be able to properly moderate it at, Facebook level anyway. So
either shut down the groups or make it so the group can only be public.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you can make your group private, you can, if Facebook, how is a disinformation researcher, or even just like let's say there's a private group about your community. Well, what if they're telling lies about you specifically? Yeah. Maybe that doesn't have to be anything political. They're saying that you are a convicted sex offender or something like that, and you are not, but they're saying that in this group with a lot of people, and now people think that, and you have no way to see it, find it, because it's sequestered over here in a group that you don't have access to. So I'm not super psyched on this thing that they're doing helping that much, at least not on Facebook. I think on Instagram it's a big deal. It's probably a bigger deal because Instagram doesn't have groups. You can't reshare things, like the virality, the way things go viral on Instagram is very different. It's just decided by Instagram, I guess. It just shows you, because Instagram does show you a bunch of crap you don't want to see, so like stuff you don't follow. And I think it's not a problem on Threads, because Threads, there's no potential for anything to be a problem on Threads, because everybody joined it and nobody uses it, except like politicos like me, of course. Like all my dystopia beat people are on Threads, posting the same thing they're posting on Twitter.
Yeah, they're not doing ads, but on Facebook I've been doing some experimentation and trying to mess with the algorithm, so it shows me different stuff, than it's basically I have it. I've been upvoting like sci-fi and fantasy images to see if it will just give me those groups and more of those images kind of thing, and just completely flood it. And it kind of works, but I still get like randomly like far right content.
That's not related suggested or for you, right? It says, it doesn't say that it was promoted. It says that it's suggesting it to you.
Right. And I'm like, why? Like, this should definitely not be promoted to me in any way. Like, no, I feel like it says the wording is something like, we think you like this or something like that. I'm like, there is no way this algorithm should think I'd be interested in this.
So, just, off the top of my head here, they may be doing that for some kind of plausible deniability. If people start bothering them about like creating echo chambers for people, they could be like, look, we have these, conservatives that we're showing liberal stuff to. And look, we have these liberals that we're showing conservative stuff to. But they could, I think Facebook could make a huge comeback by just not even doing that anymore. Just showing you the groups and pages you follow, posts by your friends, and ads.
You know what does that except for the ads?
Mastodon.
Mastodon. And it works great. And that's why I'm on Mastodon now more recently, a lot more often. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah. And I wonder, are we going to, maybe not this time, but maybe next time around, as Mastodon grows, are we going to start seeing some problems of this nature on Mastodon with like botnets and that kind of thing?
I haven't noticed anything. I think the problem that botnets are going to have is if bots are on there trying to promote whatever they're doing, which I'm sure is actually happening, nobody would follow them.
Right.
Because who cares? Like, I know there's like a couple of bots so I post these videos, as I mentioned before, when I get them up on YouTube, I post links to them on Mastodon and a number of other places. And I've noticed that there are, depending on the tags that I put on, different bots will automatically promote them. Now, these are not what I would consider like bad bots. I don't follow them, so I don't know what they're all promoting, but they'll like, if I tag like law on it or something, or lawsuit, there's like a law bot that will just automatically.
Those are good bots, I think.
Those are generally good. Yeah. From what I could tell. I haven't actually followed them, so I don't know if they're doing law and then occasionally mixing in something else, that's like, but I have not had like any problem with that. Like, I don't see how bots, like Russian bots or whatever, propaganda bots out there, I don't even know how they would get to me. I did find out that I'm following one or two people that are more conservative on Mastodon, but they're not crazy conservative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I haven't unfollowed them, but they're not like posting stuff that's, crazy. So,
I mean, kind of full disclosure, the Echoplex Media on, at Port 87 is a bot. It is a fully automated account.
Yeah. Did you mark it as a bot? Because you're supposed to mark those as bots.
Yes, of course.
Good. That's all.
Yeah. And it even explains that, hey, this is, it reposts anything that goes onto Twitter. But the reason it's doing that is because the Twitter account is essentially a bot that's just run by if this, then that. And so like, rather than setting up a whole bunch of webhooks, I'm just like, well, I've already got this set up through the Twitter, so it can just repost the stuff from Twitter, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's not great, like whatever, but like if people look for us on Mastodon, at least they find us and they find our content.
Yeah.
And again, I think Mastodon handles it really well, where you tell it that it's a bot.
Yeah.
The way it's set up, you're on your honor kind of, or you're, the server admin, is on their honor to, enforce that. But yeah, no problem. When I was talking to HK, I was like, oh, I'm just going to have this, like, do the if this, then that thing. And HK was like, well, mark it as a bot. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem. I didn't know that was a thing you were supposed to do, but I was like, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm not sure that, like, maybe in 2016, I saw a lot of sponsored content with like misinformation, disinformation, or I think a better word to use, weaponized propaganda. I saw some of that sponsored, but by 2020, most of that stuff was not sponsored content. Most of that stuff was just people sharing it in all these wacky groups. And
I agree.
I'd see all of it on one of the sock that I have specifically that is I have a sock that just joins crazy Facebook groups, right? It doesn't interact with anybody, just lays low, doesn't talk, doesn't even laugh react things, right? No laughing smoilies. And all the ads for that are actually pretty normie stuff, right? I don't see a lot of extremism in the ads, but the non-normie stuff is weird. It's the, you know, it's, if I'm like a little short on conspiracy bingo stuff, I'm like, let me see what's going on with this sock account. And it's almost as crazy as Telegram. Yeah. So I don't know. So this is all, how long are they going to extend? I think they should, if they mean business here, which I don't think they do. I think they mean marketing, right? They're doing this to get some good press from people like Axios. I think if they mean business here, they should ban all this stuff until the Congress certifies the election.
I mean, depending on what you're talking about, like, I think they should ban definitely anything political that's promoting anything resembling violence or, you know, voter fraud or something like that. All this stuff that we know is fake news and is trying to drum up anger and get people to riot, basically, you know, over it. They definitely should be blocking that indefinitely.
Right. And I guess it's like one thing for people to talk about it in a Facebook group and another thing for somebody to be able to give them money and show it to the normies, essentially.
Right. Right.
Those are two different scenarios, because the normies aren't going to come across like there's a group, it's like prepping for the 2024 election riots or something. It's like it's
wow.
Oh, it's one of the best groups, because it's about half people who are genuinely like prepping because they think Antifa is going to come to steal their canned goods, and then half of the people are clearly do not believe that, but are pretending that they do.
They're just trolling or something. Yeah,
they're LARPing. They're trying to up the ante, but and some of them, I think some of it's counterproductive, but some of it is hilarious. And that's a good way to change people's minds is humor.
Yeah, I'm not going to get in.
And speaking of humor, the only problem here is like, then where does political satire fit into all this? You know, is that going to, then you can't promote, Daily Show can't promote itself. Do you know what I'm saying? You run into,
I understand, like gray areas. But Daily Show can't promote itself.
Yeah, I mean, having that giant audience and not being able to run a Facebook ad is what we call one of them good problems, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. I was going to say the sponsor ads on Facebook. I mean, I just use Facebook. I don't use Instagram or any of the other ones. And even Facebook, I try not to use it very often. But the ads on there, even though I haven't had any problems with crazy political ads or crazy Trump, MAGA people or something like that. Like, the ads, the sponsors are still really bad and are no relation to what I'm interested in most of the time. Every once in a while, it actually is. I'm surprised. But
I can always count on Facebook ads to tell me what I just bought.
Well, the big one for me is I don't drink, but I get like tons of alcohol sponsors. And there's no way for me to actually go in and tell, to my knowledge, there's no way to go in and tell Facebook, hey, I don't drink. Like, I'm not anti-alcohol or anything, but this is a complete waste of your time and mine.
And if it's like a small brewery or whatever, like in your community, a waste of their money to show it to you.
Yes, exactly.
Like you don't drink, but you probably if there's a brewery in your community that has a good ass sandwich, you're probably going to be a frequent
pretty much
patron of that brewery, right? Like, they're wasting their money now. But I guess the brewery, if they're advertising the beer, right? You can say I'm not interested in this ad, but you can't be like, you can't tell it I have no interest in this product category.
Right. Well, what I can do is I'll block the ad, and then it'll ask me, why did you block this ad? And the only thing that ever fits, and it's the only one, like, that has a list of categories, the only one that ever fits is it's irrelevant. And I can't tell it why it's irrelevant. I can just say it's irrelevant, and it doesn't figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We're about to see, I think, major changes between now and the next election, like on social media. I think we're gonna see it kind of bifurcate in a bunch of ways. We're gonna see.
Yeah.
I think basically Meta and Twitter are going to go in different directions. Going forward. And I don't think it's necessarily going to happen like, oh, the election's over, now we're going to split off. But I think they're going to go off in different directions. And I think particularly Facebook, I think they're probably going to get they're probably going to get somebody new in there, and they're eventually just going to, I think if they're smart, they'll just go back to showing you like things you follow.
Yeah.
Because then more people would use Facebook.
And then hopefully ads that are related to, if they're going to show ads, right?
But if the ad's irrelevant, like, you're not that annoyed, like, I don't have a car. I don't plan on buying a car. If I get an ad for a car, I'm like, oh, well, whatever. But if I get an ad for a car and then a suggested post under it for like an AI, like, ooh, why don't posts like this ever go viral? And it's like a Jesus made of cilantro. I'm like, well, posts like this don't ever go viral because this post sucks.
That's right. Exactly.
But also, I would like to make something that has cilantro as an ingredient. Maybe it's an ad for cilantro.
Maybe. But so you think Meta is going to go towards moderation more and just posting stuff that you're signed up for, and then Twitter is just going to die because Elon's going to run into the ground.
Either, or I don't think that it's going to be better moderation on Facebook. I think like they're eventually going to figure out that like they around 2012, 13 or whatever, that they actually had it nailed and were giving people a service that they wanted, that people liked, because that's the only way they can go. And like, I'd use it more if I saw your posts and Media Wench's posts, and if HK was still on there, if I see like my sister's posts. She never posts on there. She's smart enough never to post on there. But like, and then the groups that I follow, like there's an OBS group that I follow. There's some Linux audio stuff I follow. If I'm seeing all that stuff plus the pages I follow, I'm like, well, this is just the stuff I wanted to see. And this is the biggest platform with the most people and the most pages and the most groups. So I'm going to see the most of what I want here. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. This has been How the Tech Are You? We do this every week. It usually posts Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just one of those days after Tuesday. Check it out on YouTube. Obviously, that's youtube.com/@HTTAY. If you are listening to the audio only version, check out all our other stuff at echoplexmedia.com. There should be stuff that you are required to click where I'm pointing. Have a great tech week.